Good morning everybody and welcome back to another episode of the LEGO Legend of Zelda Custom Set Showcase Wave 4. Well, that's right, after a long hiatus we are back with another set from this fourth wave that's been going for like 2 years. But without further ado, I'm not going to waste any time and we're going to introduce set 0064 with 910 pieces. This is the Imprisoned Seal Break, based off everybody's favourite toe monster from, of course, Skyward Sword. And this guy has been in the works for a long time, but was actually a surprisingly complicated build. So let me take through what he can do, because he has a couple of surprising features. So this set is for ages 8 and up, although arguably might be for 10 and up, with 910 pieces retailing for $69.99. And before anyone tells me that the price is too low, it's a lot of the same price. I'm following the same model as the Porg and Yoda from Star Wars, which all have around 1,000 plus pieces, 1,400 for 100. So 900 pieces for $69.99. It's doable. Remember, they set the prices beforehand. This is entirely possible, especially with the amount of repeated units on this model. And there are 4 figures here and 1 brick-built character. 2 of these characters we've seen before, and one of them's getting a remaster. Let's quickly read our description and then get into the set nice and proper. Build the fearsome imprisoned and take it down in the all-new LEGO Legend of Zelda playset. Launch the bombs or minifigures using the groosenator and replenish your supply of hearts to take on the massive imprisoned. Hit the ceiling spike to make the creature roar and tilt its head up to inhale your heroes. Attach arms and wings to the imprisoned to power it up and recreate an epic showdown. And we will take a look at those side builds in just due course. As we open up our box, we will find 8 numbered bags and 1 instruction manual that does all of the builds. And if we open that up again, we will see that number 1 does our side builds, number 2 builds up the main Technic core, very similar to that Porg, as well as the back panel. Bag 3 builds the sides. Bag 4 and 5 are open simultaneously to do the legs and front. This is something we've been seeing more and more in modern sets, and it's here as well. Bag 6 and 7 do a large section of the head as finishing up the back of the body, and bag 8 do the optional arms, with bag 9 finishing off the model, giving us this completed look here. And I mentioned a couple of features. Obviously we've got the cannon off to the side, but as we go through, we're going to talk about the Technic mechanism that I got into the head, because as you're seeing on your screen right now, it's very complex. But let's start with those side builds. So the first of the 3 side builds we have here is this little ruined section of wall where we have 2 bomb flowers. This is using the same design of bomb flowers that has appeared earlier in the CSS, most notably in the remaster we did for the Fire Sanctuary, but also elsewhere, and is the design I use in real life for the Skyward Sword bombs. This is here to represent the bomb stash that of course Groose uses on his catapult, the groosenator, which of course had to be a part of this set. They're all on these round 6x6 and then 8x8 tiles in green so that they can all be shuffled and removed. They're not connected together, and that is just so that you can recreate the scene however you want. With a big monster like this, I wanted the side builds to be super detachable. The second one is the same size as the bomb one and also features a couple of bits of rubble, also here pinning down some of the fern pieces which are starting to make their way into more of the custom sets. And this section is for the heart flowers, which is how you of course replenish your hearts in the games, at least the older games. And more specifically, I wanted to include them here because they are obviously found in the ceiling ground spiral, but also because this design is super iconic and I just wanted a little bit of Zelda flair to add to the background here. With these areas, of course, you can pose figures on them here and of course take the flowers off to make it seem like you're picking up the hearts. But of course most of the play with these 3 comes down to the third one, which is the bigger one, and it features the groosenator. To start with, it's on a turntable so it can rotate 360 degrees. You've got this 2x2 modified tile here by the lever so that you could sit someone down, say Groose, to control it. This is the control seat, and you've actually got the handles that can go backwards and forwards so you can actually pull the lever, simulating the catapult firing. But of course, why would you need to do that when you can actually launch the thing itself? Of course, we've got a 2x2 tile on one end and a 3x3 dish on the other, and of course when you press down on one, it's going to launch it. Now of course you can launch bombs to fire them at the imprisoned's mouth to give it a stun, or you could of course rest a minifigure very lightly, I'm not sure how well it's going to work, in the 3x3 dish, and then hit down and it will of course send Link flying up to the top to do some damage to the ceiling spike. But what's the point in talking about all this without taking a look at the big man himself? So let's see what this big lump can do. So starting off, as we always do with these giant brick-built characters, is just looking at the scale. He's pretty tall, especially from a minifigure's perspective. He looks quite menacing. As I mentioned, the main inspiration here was actually the Porg, which had the feature of being able to sort of flap its wings and like bleat, I'm going to say. I don't know really what noise a Porg makes in Star Wars. But beyond that, it really only inspired the main core and the sort of fluffiness texture, which was one of the things that held this set back, which was originally supposed to be in Wave 3, then got pushed back to Wave 6, and then pushed back to Wave 4. But this was all like 2 years ago when I finally finally sort of nailed in what I wanted to do for each wave. Anyway, the arms are of course removable to represent the phase 1 part of the fight where he has the toes. Then you can attach them in to these ratchet ball joints for phase 2, and of course these arms have 2 points of articulation, specifically up and down, so he can put his hands up as if he's being arrested, or you can push them into the body as well and move them around. This is so you could recreate the idea of the arms sort of flailing when he gets hit, or if like he's grabbing onto the next layer up so that he can rise and climb out of the pit further. So again, nice bit of posability, but it was really important to me that you could remove them easily to recreate the different phases of the bosses. Similarly, another section that's removable, which is actually done just in here with these pins that you really can't notice because the model's all black. We have a vinyl element here representing the halo, or wings as I called it in the description, that allow the imprisoned to fly, allowing you to recreate the third phase of the battle where it can take flight as well. And I think it looks super menacing, and vinyl was absolutely the choice to go. Again, inspired by what they've done with Monkey Kid, but also I just think it looks so cool. And as I said, that is removable because you can just pin it on using these stamp pieces that are on the side of the head here. Now I realise no one really likes the amount of encounters with the imprisoned, but I do still think he leaves an impression on the game, and as a large behemoth creature they're always fun to turn in Lego form, and who doesn't like a large beast playset? Although arguably you could call this one less realistic because no one would like to buy it. However, I disagree. I will actually be turning this guy into real life probably in 2025. He's gone straight to the top of my list, right behind the art set and a couple of other last minute ones. There are also, this is because of a couple of features. I showed you that dense Technic core earlier, which is what we're going to come to in just a moment, but I also think it is important to talk about the body detail, which is mostly using this 2x2 tooth piece here in black to recreate the fur texture, although there are also plenty of uses of the 1x2 variety, which is less deep, the 1x1 variety, as well as some 1x1 pyramidal cones. We've actually got some smooth pieces around to the top of the head, and round the back to recreate the sort of wispy tails. We've actually got some different smoke element pieces and different energy effects that have been used across the years. Now I suppose one of the bigger concerns people might say is, well, where's the red? These scales are pretty shiny and uniform, but I kind of wanted to go for this fluffier look, so he kind of looks a little bit like a teddy bear, I guess, but also just because I think it recreates the look quite well. I have actually used dark red plates, but I've done too much of a good job and they don't really show through, but there would be glimpses of dark red, just like how you can see glimpses of colour on the inside of a colourful Star Wars set. The other details on the exterior, of course, are the toes on the hands and feet. They're actually built differently. The ones on the hands using the classic 2x2 dome piece, so these would be easily choppable off, and the ones down below would actually break apart more efficiently or into more pieces, because they're actually built out of 4 of this newer 1x1 round curve, which some of which are angled to the sides, and the feet are quite stocky and have no articulation because I really wanted him to be nice and stable. But moving on to the head, this was the most important thing to capture the shape right, and I think he looks just about perfect from every angle. The big thing, of course, was he had to be able to open his mouth, but I also wanted him to be able to go from that sort of hunched over position to facing directly upwards, as if he's sucking Zelda's soul out from the end of the game, or he's reaching above through the clouds. So it was really important that I had that 90 degrees or almost 90 degrees worth of rotation, which you're seeing on your screen here, either with the mouth closed or with the mouth open, which did actually present some problems for jaw clearance and other various bits like that. Now secondly, I then started thinking, wouldn't it be fun to have a feature where if you smack on the ceiling spike, the jaw would open like he's sort of roaring in pain, or just as a way to make him roar rather than having to click and open the mouth and potentially knocking teeth out by just sort of pressing a little actuator on the top. Again, kind of similar to what the Porg did, except for the Porg had it round the back and it was with the tail flap. Here it's with the ceiling spike, which is just such a double feature that's so cool. And I'm like 90% confident, like really pretty sure that this mechanism would actually work in real life. Sure enough that I'm not testing it before I actually buy the pieces to do it in real life. But basically it's a cantilever mechanism, meaning that when you push down on this, it pushes this sort of teeter table or like hinge, I'm going to call it, that's pivoting around the middle back, and there's a link connector at the back of the other end of the pivot that then gets pulled up, because as you push down on the front, the back goes up, and that pulls up the link, which is attached to another cable, another piece below, which if you're pulling up the back side of that, this time the other end of the hinge goes down instead of up. And I hope you know that I'm waving my arms all over to explain this, but basically it means that as you can push one down, you usually would then pull up the other end, but going around the back of the jaw of it then allows you to sort of yank the jaw open as well by pulling on the back side. Look, I promise it makes sense. One day I'll be able to show you in real life, but it was very hard to go. Anyway, the result is that as you push the spike from up, to inwards, the jaw opens, as if you're causing him to scream in pain. And on the inside, of course, you can see we've got a row of teeth on the top, a row of teeth on the bottom with that lovely little overbite, and then, of course, a 3x3 round tile. I told you it was becoming one of my favourite parts, to represent sort of the back of his throat and close off some of that gap. And unfortunately, lots of ugly gaps here that I was trying to avoid just because of the nature of getting that mechanism to work. Similarly, you'll notice some tiles on the side of the head for that head rotation. Of course, whether the mouth's open or closed, you can then sort of put this entire mechanism that I've just described actually is all on a big pivot so that it can go upwards or sideways, which is so cool and just so over-engineered. And I hope that this all-white Technic shot kind of gets you the idea, where I have the body frame here and then you sort of pin in the head, and inside that head is all of the mechanisms to make the jaw thing work so that it works independently. Anyway, I was very proud of it. It's probably the most complicated Technic mechanism I've ever had to design myself. And I really hope it's nice and stable when I turn it into real life, and if not, we'll fix it, we'll make it work. But yeah, I'm still very, very pleased with how that goes. So yeah, press in on the top of the head and magic happens. So yeah, that's all the features really. Of course, you've got the removable arms and the removable halo. You've got the upwards tilting of the head so that it looks as though it can sort of be falling in. Of course, he can go munchies because his natural default state is closed, so you can sort of press down on it to open and then let go, and it should snap shut and finish munching up on our princess. And then of course you can launch Link using the groosenator onto the top and give that ceiling spike a smack, which will also cause the mouth to open like he's roaring in pain. Not so much of a simulation of defeat, a bit like the King Gleeok in that regard, and unlike other creatures like the Frogs where you can knock off the stuff off the back, or the Magmarmane from the first ever custom set, a Fire Sanctuary, where you could actually explode it to showcase defeat. And actually the same with Koloktos, whose head flew off. But for this one, it was more about scale and stability and having those fun features. And you still kind of can simulate defeat because you've got the ceiling spike and you can whack that, and of course you can knock the toes off. So I think you get close enough. But yeah, I'm really, really proud of him. So let's take a look at those figures that you get in this set as well. So first up we have Link from Skyward Sword, and this is not a new figure. It has appeared in a couple of different sets now across multiple waves. I think most recently would have been the Koloktos Ancient System one, which is also a Wave 4 set. And of course he's based off a Skyward Sword design. He has a normal sword that's not yet been powered up because this is obviously based off all the Imprisoned encounters, but I guess the first one as well. We've got that head mold that we've been using since Wave 1, as well as a smiling expression. On the reverse of that there is a determined face, or was it a scared face? I can never quite remember. We have some dual molded arms and dual molded legs. Because this figure is getting reused all the time, I do not feel bad about the level of printing quality we gave him, and I guess it might be Nintendo stipulation, you never know. And then alongside those dual molded legs you have a wonderful little torso print as well, with the belts going across and the undershirt and the chainmail. I love it. Again, this is one of my two stipulations: either Lego give me a full playset Wave, or you give me this figure as a perfect version. We all know what the true perfect version will look like, because it's like my cardboard cutout, but better because I still can't draw. Next figure that also got a big upgrade that we've also seen before is Groose, reappearing here after his appearance in Wave 1 in the Wings ceremony. Who knows whether this would be the exact same version of the figure, or whether it would have to be a reprint, because the time passed between the two of them is what, Wave 1 to 4, so summer 2020, all the way through to Wave 4 is January 2022. So hopefully the set would actually just be leaving production, meaning that this figure would just be able to use its existing mold slots and therefore not cost the theme any new money. Of course, looking like his model from game, he's using the same hairpiece, so that's no new mold here because that's a Wave 1 piece. Same face print as before, and then of course the same torso and legs with the dual molded arms. Again, another reused figure. But this guy is special here for us today because he's actually been heavily remastered and upgraded from his Wave 1 version, which looked a little bit horrific. And I've kept the same pose just out of respect, I guess, but looking a lot better now that we're more consistent. I'm pleased to be able to give as many of those Wave 1 figures updates as possible, and I'm slowly making my way through all of them, which you might think is a little bit atrocious, but I try and use the originals where possible, but it is nice to see what they would look like in a more consistent style. As I said, that Wave 2 figure art really was much more consistent than say the Wave 1 one, so it's just Wave 1 that needs it. We have old Impa here as our third of the 4 figures. You can see her here using a cape to represent her incredibly difficult to translate to minifigure form, although I think I did an admirable job. She's using mid-legs with the printing to represent her skirt, and her hair is not a new mold, it is coming and is entirely on the printing. Mostly because I wanted it to hide the eyes, but also I just felt it was necessary, and she's using the wizard cap here. I actually really like this as an interpretation, and I also think the figure looks incredibly clean using plain arms and just some simple front of torso printing. No printing on the cape because too much money, but a little bit of printing on the hat just to give it a little bit of extra detail, and of course only one face because you'd be able to see around the back. But yeah, no, I really like how it's translated into figure form. I realise some of you would probably want like a brick built solution. I don't really know how else to do it, but I think this is probably the best way. I'm quite happy with how she turned out, and I realised we'll probably never ever get her, but I think this would be really cool to own one day. And then fourth and finally we have Zelda from Skyward Sword, who's also doing some interestingly controversial things. I went backwards and forwards for the hairpiece for a while. I knew I couldn't give her a new one, so in the end it was, do I want the braids or not? And in the end I decided that the Rivendell elf hairpiece is pretty close, and I'm actually pretty happy with it. Yeah, we're lacking a little bit of that fringe, so it kind of looks like she's receding a little bit, and the braids are too long and have none of the printing, but I'm really happy with how the piece looks, and it does get us our elf ears, which is, again, something I don't think everyone should be worried about. I don't always think it's necessary, but in this case, yeah, I chose to give her the Rivendell hairpiece, and I think she's recognisable for it. We've also got, of course, her pink dress. We've got the sailcloth sort of symbolised around her shoulders using dual moulded arms, which do look a little bit out of place, but it's fine, we'll live. And then, of course, we have a belt, which then abruptly stops so that you can't see her sailcloth, because I chose not to give her a dress piece, and I chose not to print the dress on the legs, instead trying the Troll's skirt piece, which, again, really random choice. Don't know why, of all figures this was the one I chose to do it on, because it's not like we've not had characters with 3/4 length skirts before, and for pretty much all 3/4 length skirts I tend to print them on the legs, but for this one I decided let's use the skirt. It just felt appropriately, so we did, and here we are. I actually really like the face print on this, and it's another Zelda that was well overdue to join the figure lineup. I can't believe it's been this long since we got this outfit. So yep, here she is in Wave 4 set. Of course, for her to be swallowed at the beginning of the game, I guess you could put her in another outfit, but yeah, beginning of the game is what I'm telling myself here. And then, of course, our last one is the Imprisoned as a whole. I just have to draw them all in drawn form as well, just so we have a nice consistent image at the end. But here he is, completely scaled down, and of course featuring his halo, which works even better when it doesn't look so out of place. Wish there was a better way for me to render the vinyl, but I really can't figure that out now. As you can imagine, when he doesn't have his arms in his halo, he's going to look pretty much like this. And when he does have his arms in halo, yep, he can fly around and his arms can dangle limply by his side, or they can come up and grab onto the edges as well. And that just proves why that vinyl piece is so cool. Oh, I love how that looks. But once again, I'm just shocked with creature work and how that's come out, because I don't understand how I keep managing to design these creatures and get away with it, because I'm not a good designer. I don't understand how I can just sit down and do this, and they scare me every time, and then every time I get proven wrong, apart from Nadra. Still not a fan of Nadra. But anyway, this is the Wave 4 lineup now. We have most of the sets. I think there's 5 or so missing. I don't want to say that and then be wrong, but yeah, we've got everything here through the unofficial Arbiter's Grounds and Take Back the Sea, the Gerudo Fortress, Temple of Time, the dungeon sets like Volvagia, Battle for the Sacred Flame, and the Ancient Machines Battle Pack and Spirit Temple, and then Nadra, of course, Lockup Breakout, and then Salvatore. But you're still missing 5, including a couple of really fun play sets, which have all been designed and are ready to go. It's just we're taking a long time to get through them. But yeah, no, I'm really pleased with that. And here is the Imprisoned next to the classic boss lineup. The only ones missing from here are the Tears of the Kingdom bosses, because I did not add them. But yeah, this is every boss encounter that we have done in form up to this point, which is mostly figures, weirdly enough, mostly final bosses. But yeah, Imprisoned joins Bongo and Godan and Koloktos actually as well. 2 in Skyward Swords from Wave 4. Maybe I'm showing a little bit of bias there. I think it's about time though. But yeah, no, again, I'm consistently impressed with my creature sculpting ability. It's like the one part where I'll take some credit, because while most of my models are trash, I am consistently surprised by how I am able to turn these really curvy monstrosities into brick form, and they kind of look cute. I can't wait to own this guy. He will definitely be making a collection in the 2025 run-up, whether that be in the first half of the year, I hope, or in the second half. I'm really hoping first half, but we'll see how much the art set drains my bank account. Let me know what you thought of this one down below, as well as all the functions baked into it. I'm still really proud of how this one turned out. And the next custom set will be coming in December, and it will be our Christmas or holiday themed one. So lots to look forward to there. We've got the advent calendars coming back as well, and a couple of other LEGO sort of videos in between now and then. Don't worry, there's no reason to go anywhere, because we've got Castle Winners coming up as well. But anyway, take care everybody, and let me know what you thought down below. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye bye.